Open for Business, presented by Kicking In Australia, one of the finest and fastest growing businesses in Australia.
Hi there, I'm Mike Loder and welcome to the second episode of Open for Business, where we unlock the secrets of starting and maintaining a successful business in 2022. Last time on the show, we talked all about the importance of branding when it comes to getting a new company off the ground. And on today's episode, we'll explore how crucial it is to create a winning culture once you're up and running. As always, I'm joined by a man who's spending his days in the thick of doing business. It's CEO of Australian Cajun seafood restaurant chain Kicking In, Ravi Singh. Ravi, thank you so much for joining me again.
My pleasure.
Now, for those who may not know, let's touch on a little bit about Kicking In and perhaps your journey and what you guys are putting into your business so far, just to start.
Mate, it's just an exciting business model that we started 3 years ago. It was all about penetrating the market with the Cajun influence. Couldn't find the sauce, so we decided to create our own, which is the 5 signature sauces, which is Cajun garlic, vital, lemon, pepper, and shebang. Eating seafood with your hands with the bibs and gloves on, that's the best way to taste the greatest seafood in Australia. And this is our brand.
Absolutely. All right. Now, as we start to zero in on culture as a key element of business success, let's have a listen to a member of the Kicking In team who is on the front line cultivating the brand's winning team culture each and every day.
Hi, I'm Lujala. I'm one of the managers at Kicking In. I started working around October 2019, so it's been 2 years, almost 2 years. When I first started, it was really strange because I never saw any restaurant serving, not serving plates, cutleries, eating with their hands and everything. I'm from Nepal. From where I come, we eat with our hands. So when I saw that, I felt like, oh, I belong here. The culture is like so similar to my culture. My favorite part of my job is doing birthdays. When we do birthdays, I remember when small things about customers, they feel loved, they feel like they're looked after, they feel like they're cared for. I love doing that.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
It feels like family working here. Each and every staff here feels like they belong here. At Kicking In, we have a really winning team culture that sets the stages for the positive attitudes, high expectations, and successful performance. Here, it's just not job. It's when you come here as a staff, we look after you as a family.
Yeah, very, very cool words from Lujala there. And Ravi, the thing that Lujala sort of ended on there was family. Do you think that's a big part of the Kicking In storyline in terms of, would you say that's the sort of keystone, I guess?
Absolutely, mate. That's one of our keystones that we've developed. And one of the things that both Semi, myself, and both our wives had in mind was to create a company that has got this family culture. Because we both have, wonderful families, and of course we want to create more families in the world at this present time. So the staff, the culture, the vibe, and the love behind that is absolutely important to the growth of our business.
Again, maintaining that sort of fun culture.
That's what it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's bring in our special guest today. He's one of the world's most experienced human resources leaders who has spent his career working with the likes of IBM and Xerox. Ravi's first, you met our guest when he was CEO of A Great Place to Work, a company which helps organizations around the globe boost their team culture. So I don't think there's a better person to have with us on today's episode. I'm very pleased to welcome Ron Thomas, joining us from New York. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you? Glad to be here.
Doing very well. Thanks for your time. So, Ron, you've spent most of your life surveying employees in all sorts of different workplaces. Is there one quality or aspect of a business's culture that keeps coming up when those businesses get it right, do you think?
Well, when Ravi gave the story for Kick It In, he basically set the tone. He and his co-founder and family set the tone. And hiring these kind of employees, if you set the tone, leadership has to set and create culture. Lots of times it's kind of a given that leadership will talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. They exemplify that every day. So as a result of that, people come in and will try and match that. You can't buy culture. You can't buy culture by giving people, gifts, early days off, and all these kinds of things. You have to create a culture. He talked about the young lady talked about the family culture that has been created at Kicking In. That just didn't happen by mistake. And knowing Ravi for as long as I've known him, I was not the least bit surprised when as he talks about this, because when he was in Dubai, when he was in corporate, he built that same kind of culture. He is, along with the owners of that company, built the same type culture.
Yeah, well said. But Ravi, I know one of your biggest aims at Kicking In is to not create a, quote, silo culture. Can you explain to us what do you mean by that? And secondly, I suppose, what do you have to do to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, it's a very great question, and Ron will agree with me. You know, Ron and I have done a lot of work in the last 15 years in terms of making sure, you know, companies, when they're growing, when they're building a brand and when they're building culture, that every person in the organization is glued to the same focus. The left hand knows what the right hand is doing. The conversations, the communication is all happening, and that's what we do at Kicking In. At all levels, you know, every employee is treated exactly the same. We have meetings, we have get-togethers. I've mentioned breakfast bashes as well. We have parties, we have fun times. And we talk about, you know, successes, and we talk about failures. It's all about collaboration. And Ron would totally agree with me in terms of building the culture. That's one of the key pillars of building that family feel, because when people feel trusted, they will go out there and do and promote the brand even more.
How often do you guys catch up for those meetings, Ravi?
Well, on a weekly basis, the managers and I, we catch up, and then both Sammy and I and our wives are both in the business. And so we go to the restaurants every single day, 365 days a year, because at the end of the day, that's where our heart is, that's where our passion is.
That's a beautiful thing. Well said. Yeah. And back over to you, Ron. When it comes to culture, what are the things that businesses get wrong most of the time? I think we've got to learn from the mistakes we make, so perhaps you can highlight some for us.
Well, Robbie just gave a master class. He said every day one of the owners is inside of the business. So it's not coming in and going to an office, sitting here, and the businesses are here. But as a result of going and creating that culture and seeing the owners, interact and collaborate with people, owners are asking the workers for advice as to how to do how we can expedite a process or whatever. That's what creates it. So culture has to be created from the top. It can't be created from a headquarters and sent out on an email, because it doesn't work that way.
Well said, well said. Ravi, tell me some of the ways that you guys are empowering the team members and the staff who are on the ground working day to day.
Again, that's a very important question to understand. I mean, and those that are watching tonight or today, I mean, they need to really understand, when you're building a brand and building a culture, you have to form yourself as part of that ecosystem. And all the 400 staff members that stand behind us that are creating the brand and the culture, they're part of the ecosystem. So we listen to them, we engage them, we ask them questions in terms of what can they do things better to make it more efficient for themselves and to the customer as well. And most importantly, we spend a lot of time and energy. 75% of my time, and Ron would agree with me, and he probably knows me better than anybody else in the world, is developing people. We develop people through the ranks because we want them to be, the co-founders of the nitty-gritty, the grassroots of the design of the concept, and that lies with our staff members.
You guys have got your fingers on the pulse, that's for sure. But Ron, back over to you. What are the biggest changes you've seen over your career from a cultural point of view? Employers surely expect different things from their employers now than they did, say, 20 or maybe even 30 years ago. Things have changed.
The DNA of a workforce has changed dramatically, and the culture that's created for this new workforce is totally different from that industrial age, mindset. I want to piggyback off one of the things that Ravi said, is that they collaborate and they ask the people, is there a better way to do this? I saw an interview on CNBC, and they asked one CEO, how many people does he have working in R&D, research and development? And one gentleman said, I think we have a staff of about 4 or 5. They asked the other gentleman, he said, we have, in Ravi's case, we have 400 people working in research and development. In other words, each person is in charge of their process. And if they can figure out a better way to do that process, pass it on, share it, and collaborate. That's the new model moving forward. Everyone in a role inside of an organization feels empowered to try and increase the efficiency of that process, regardless of what it is. And Ravi just talked through the same thing.
Absolutely. And would you say that the leaders need to listen in order to, like never before, do you think?
Oh, they have to listen like they've never listened in their lives. One of the key findings that came out of COVID was 2 things that organizations have to do post-COVID, is to develop a listening strategy. In other words, listen more and communicate more. It can't be by email. So Ravi And his co-founder talked, when he talked about going out into the stores, a different store each day, you create that synergy that can't be created from a headquarters concept, top down. It will not work that way today.
Absolutely. So, Ravi, I think we saw a hint of it in Lujala's piece earlier, but it's not just the staff that feel the family, it's that family culture. It's, of course, the customers as well. Take us through a bit about that in relation to Kicking In.
Absolutely. I mean, we by the way, we don't call them customers, Mike. We call them fans. Why? Because, we want those people, to believe and trust in the brand. And when they go to the restaurant, they see happy employees, they see, they feel the vibe, they feel the culture, they feel the love that comes out of that environment. Even the customers, they want to be intertwined and be part of that puzzle. And I think that's more important in this 21st century. And I think that's what Ron is touching on to. I just want to, echo what Ron has also said. Hayes did an interesting survey just a few months ago, and 89% of the employees, they voted that if they have got a stronger collaboration and understanding with the CEO, they are more attuned to do bigger and better things within the organization. And culture is one part that is so sensitive in somebody's growth. Because don't forget, a third of your life is spent working with your bosses and your co-workers in an employment workforce, and a third of that time is so critical for this employee's growth, and that's why culture is so prominent now than ever before.
Well said from you, Ron. I'm just going to go back to you for 2 seconds. Can you give us some tips for anyone watching who might be trying to start a new company or improve their workplace culture? We've only got a couple of seconds, but hit us with your tips.
I would say collaborate and find people that do things better than you do. If social media, if someone does social media better than you, you hire that person to handle social media or the technical side of it. If everyone concentrates on what they do better and collaborate around that, you're going to be okay. Providing funding and the concept is sound.
Well said by you, Ron, and thank you again for your time. Ravi, same to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ron.
And of course, to all of you out there, Ravi and I will be back next time to discuss all things leadership, because any great business needs great leaders, as we know. We look forward to having your company then, and catch you next time when we open for business.